Good morning and welcome back to my channel. This message today is heavy on my heart because I see the stories everyone is carrying in their body. I feel it in my own body. I feel the stories that my body is carrying through you, that when I'm in your field, someone else's field, I become the stories that are on your body. I feel every story that you carry in your body in my own body. Every time you look in the mirror and you think a horrible thing about yourself, every time you mistreat yourself, every time you self-abandon yourself and self-sacrifice, I feel it in my own body because we are all connected. We are all connected. And whether we feel it or not and are aware of it or not, it is happening. Our body feels it. Our body knows what's happening. And our bodies have been yelling at us. Your body has been screaming at you to listen. Will you listen to her? She's been telling you stories your whole life, begging for you to express them, for you to release them, for you to feel them, for you to heal them. Because in feeling them and giving those stories within you a voice, which is just an expression, it's not about victimizing yourself, it's not about identifying with the stories, because that is how the stories stay stuck in your body, is you identify with the stories. Your body has been speaking, your body has been crying, your body has been yelling. Will you listen? Will you listen to the Divine Mother that has been calling you to rise up, calling you to feel, calling you to remember who you are, to remember the power that is within your own body. For the women out there, the power that is within your own womb, that has been tried, that has been buried, that has been attempted to eradicate the wisdom of our feminine bodies, of the female body, and the wisdom we hold within it, within our own wombs, the life force that flows from our womb, the direct access to the Divine Mother. We are the Divine Mother. We may not feel her because we are still abusing her. We're still self-sacrificing. When we abuse the Divine Mother within ourselves, she wilts like a flower and she is not present. She can only be present when she is being honored. Every woman is connected to the Divine Mother directly through her womb, is connected through this red thread, through your mother's womb, through her mother's womb, through her mother's womb, and so on. Everything comes from the mother, the original mother. Tell me one person, one being that has not come from a mother. You have the power of the Divine Mother within your own womb. And when you awaken and you honor and you are devoted to her, this is when she rises. She rises within you and she eradicates. She eradicates the lies and the illusions if you let her rise. But we have been programmed and conditioned to believe, to fear our own power, to fear what is in our own womb, to fear Kundalini, to fear our life force energy, to fear everything that is a threat to the darkness in this world. To fear everything that is a threat to greed, to power, to fear. Because when this rises in us, when we allow the truth of who we are to rise, nothing else can stand but the truth. The fear dissolves, the fear shakes in the face of the Divine Mother. The entities, the energies, all of the energies that are not of the light, that are not devoted to the Mother, shake in the presence of the Divine Mother. I know this because when I feel her in me, I feel the fear, I feel the aspects of what is inside of others shake in my presence when I feel the Divine Mother in me. And she's in me always, but there is moments where I myself self-abandon. There's moments where I myself do not honor her. And I forget that the woman standing in front of me is the Divine Mother, and the plant in front of me is the Divine Mother, and the tree is the Divine Mother, and the bird is the Divine Mother, and the plant and the bugs are the Divine Mother. And when I step out of devotion, I lose my connection with her. She's still there, but I can't feel her, and I've forgotten her for a moment. As long as we are devoted to the Divine Mother, when we are in devotion to the Mother, we never lose our way. We never lose our way when we are in devotion. This is the point of a guru, and the guru is within you, but the point of a guru and why people have had gurus and their purpose on this earth was because they were so deeply connected. They were a true, full embodiment. They had fully let go of their stories, of their identities, of their attachments, and they became a full embodiment of the divine, of God, Goddess. And because they are now just a portal to the divine, just by you being in their presence, you have access to the divine through them. So through your devotion to the guru, you are devoted to God, Goddess, through them. So when you are in devotion to whatever form of the divine is in front of you, it may be your sister, it may be your brother, it may be your mother, it may be a stranger on the street. But when you are living from this devotion, you have access and you are tapped into the divine all the time. The moment you fall out of devotion and you start thinking I instead of us, I instead of we, the moment you fall back into separation and out of devotion, you lose your way again. The Divine Mother is rising. She's rising in us all. And this is the rise of the feminine. And this is not about saying that men are less important. Men have a beautiful role. They have their rising too, but the women have to rise first. The women have to rise and step into their power and call the men up by claiming their sovereignty, by stepping into their power and saying, no more will I be abused. No more will I allow the Divine Mother within me to be abused. And we are also, everything outside of us is a reflection. The men in your life that may not be treating you with devotion and honor are simply mirrors for you to show you where the masculine within yourself is still not honoring you, is still not honoring the divine feminine within yourself. Everything outside of you is reflecting something within you. So the only work to do is within you. All of the stories are within you. They are simply playing out in your external reality. I recently had an experience that I won't share all the details of it, but it was a beautiful reflection, but a painful reflection where I was pouring into someone I loved. Not a romantic partner, but someone I loved, a male. And I was pouring from this well within me that is tapped into the Divine Mother, that is always giving, always pouring. The Divine Mother wants to always pour. That is the very essence of who she is. If you look to nature, you can begin to understand her. You can begin to learn about the Divine Mother through everything around you in nature. The fruit trees abundantly give, the grass abundantly gives, the trees abundantly give. Everything in nature is always giving and always receiving, because when you can't possibly give and not receive when you are giving from that place, when you are giving from the eternal well of everlasting, ever-flowing abundance, when you are tapped into the true divine, and you are giving from that place, you will never run out, because everything you give, you receive. Because if I am you and you are me, when I give to you, I receive through you. I am also the receiver in that giving. And I know this, and I've been practicing the embodiment of this, because there's the knowing and the knowledge dropping into our beings, not even dropping into our beings, the knowledge being remembered within ourselves. And when we remember this knowledge and we remember these truths within us, because it's all memory, all of these memories, I don't get any of this information from a book, from someone else. Everything that I share, I receive from my own being, because it's a memory. Your blood, your cells, your bones, your energy field, everything within you is coded with memory. Everything. And in the process of awakening, of rising our frequency, which is happening naturally, but also it happens faster by choice when we are listening. Our body is guiding the way. But when we're not listening to our body, when it's saying stop eating that food, stop smoking those cigarettes, stop drinking the alcohol, when you stop poisoning your body and you start listening to your body's, through listening to your body, your vibration will raise. And the cells and the memories in you will activate, and you will begin to remember who you are. You will begin to remember the truth that no book can ever tell you, that no book will ever tell you, because all the truth in the books have been burned. There may be some books out there with some of the truth still in it. There's bits and pieces here and there, and maybe there's still some hidden somewhere. But for the most part, they've all been burned. Our history shows this. What books were they burning? They were not the Bible. They were the true story of the womb mysteries. They were the true story of the power that lives within inside of our own bodies. Because when we remember who we are, we cannot be controlled. We can no longer be sheep. We can no longer be puppets. When we remember our own power, we can no longer be controlled. And nothing can stop us. Nothing can stop us. We are creators. We are direct portals to the divine. So everything I share has been a memory that I have remembered, that has been activated within me. To go back to that story, I was pouring from this place and in practicing embodiment of this, and there was moments that I would slip into a story and slip into stories of lack, being like, but what if I run out? But what if I don't have enough? And even if it was my last dollar, to spend it for that person, for us, because I was traveling with this person and for the last couple months. And I felt the knowledge, the sacred wisdom within my own body being shared with him, just through being in his field. I felt everything I was pouring into him, that the money of the support that I was offering was just a reflection of me energetically pouring into him. And it felt good, and I was trusting it. But there was a moment where he, in my experience, in my perception, and what it felt like in my body, chose a wound, an old wound within himself, rather than devotion. He slipped out of devotion and slipped back into an old pattern. And now my pouring and poured into someone that represented his wound, that represented his story, rather than his devotion. And the moment he poured into that and self-abandoned his higher self, self-abandoned that child within him and chose the wound, the moment that happened, I felt it in my own body, and I felt pain. Something inside of me broke. Something inside of me broke. And it was the unspoken vow between the masculine and the feminine. That the feminine will pour into you endlessly endlessly pour into you and give you life through her, and give you access to all the sacred wisdom that she holds within herself. She will endlessly, endlessly pour from this well that it exists within her own body when you are in devotion to her. The moment you are not in devotion to her, she can no longer exist in your reality. She can't. And if you physically choose to exist in a reality where the Divine Mother within you is not being devoted to, when it is being abused, while it is being self-sacrificed, and this is in the form of others sometimes, and that's a reflection of, I could have chosen to stay. I could have chosen to continue to stay in the field and continue to pour, but the moment I felt it was like a leak in the hose, I was pouring and I was receiving through my pouring. I was receiving through my pouring. I was receiving through my pouring. So I was constantly being poured into because I was pouring into from that place, and he was receiving it from that place, and it was just cycling and expanding within us both. But the moment he chose to pour outside of devotion and pour into a wound, pour into something that takes, something that is not in devotion to the mother. The moment, if he was pouring into something that was another being, another human, another aspect of himself, which is in the form of another, that was also in devotion to the mother, then it would also amplify the pouring that I was pouring into him, and I would also receive through him pouring into that other person. But because he poured into someone who is not in devotion to the divine and is not into devotion to the divine within himself, it was a leak. And I felt the energy, the taking energy, the self-sacrificing energy travel through him to me. And I felt the self-abandonment and self-sacrifice of all the beings involved. And I felt the pain of it within my own womb. And something broke. And the breaking that happened was this unspoken vow between the divine masculine and the divine feminine. Her vow to always pour into him as long as he devoted and protected her. The divine feminine does need the masculine's protection. When the feminine within us is held and she knows, okay, I am held, I am safe in this container, that is when she steps into the fullness of her power. That is when she can fully receive, be in receiving. Because when she is fully stepped into that receiving, that is where her power is. Her power is in receiving. She needs to be able to step into receiving so she can receive this abundance, this flow from within her, and then pour into herself and pour into those around her. If that container is not being held for her, she goes into the masculine, because now she has to hold that within herself, and she cannot be in the feminine within herself. She has to step into the masculine within herself, because the masculine around her is not serving his role. He is not in his power. The masculine in his power is the protector, is the bowl that holds the water. The water is the feminine, the flow, the constant state of flow and movement. The masculine is the bowl that holds it, the river banks that allow the river to move through it. This is the masculine in his power. But there is still a wound in the masculine within us all. There's a wound within the feminine within us all. There's a strong wound of the feminine that is still begging to be seen, that's still wanting to be seen by trying to convince, by trying to explain, by trying to say, look at me. Can you not see me? Can you not see in the places where you abandoned me, where you are not in devotion to me? But this is not empowerment. You cannot explain yourself. You have to simply walk away. In the rooms where you are not being received, in the rooms where you are not being honored and devoted to, you must walk away, because that is how you protect the divine feminine within you. If you stay in the rooms where you are being siphoned of your life force energy, where your life force, where that flow of abundance within you and your pouring is not being received, when your pouring is being disrespected, when your pouring is being taken advantage of and being taken for granted, it will dry you up and you will wither like a flower. So your duty and your devotion to the mother is to step out of those fields. Otherwise, the mother within you will die. Protect her. Protect your own power. Protect and love and devote to that sacredness that you are, that is rising within you. The divine feminine is rising. The divine mother is rising, and there's nothing we can do to stop it. It's going to happen either way, but she is begging for us to listen, to help her rise, because she is rising in our own bodies. Heaven is returning to earth through our own bodies. This new way of being, this new way forward is rising through us. She's speaking through you. She's speaking through everyone in your life to show you where you are still caught, to show you where you are still feeding wounds. And this experience I had to step out of the reality. And I spoke my truth and I stepped out of the reality, because as long as the other reflection in my life is still pouring into places that are not of devotion, that are still not honoring the divine mother, if I am pouring into them, I am also not divine. I am also not honoring the divine mother. So I have to step out. Even if it hurts, even if it's painful, I have to step out of the reality. Because I feel it within my own body. When I am in the room of someone who is still abusing the divine mother within them, who is still speaking poorly about their mother, who is still looking at his sister and speaking poorly to his sister and judging his sister and projecting stories onto his sister, mother, or whatever it is, when he is still not honoring the divine mother with outside of himself and also within himself, I feel it all. We all do, whether we realize it or not. And what was reflected to me was there was still a wound in my feminine. And this wound in me is a reflection of the wound within us all, within all of us. I see it in the women around me. The wound of still wanting to be seen. This wound may be connected to our fathers. For a lot of us, it is connected to our fathers. And it's not just a story from this lifetime. It's a story that was passed down from our mothers, from our mothers' mothers, from our fathers. This story has been passed down, and it is still playing out until we say it's enough, until we dissolve that story within ourselves. It keeps getting passed down to the next generation. The stories travel through us, and they don't stop until we dissolve them, until we heal them, until we feel them. And the story that is being dissolved and was dissolved within me was that need to be seen. After this happened, I felt a strong need to explain myself. I wanted the other, which is just a reflection of the divine masculine within myself, to see how you hurt me. Understand it so that you can stop hurting me, because I just didn't want to feel the pain and I wanted to keep them in my life. And every breakup I've ever been through, I went through this. Every breakup with a romantic partner, I went through this. Where I just wanted them to understand. And they couldn't. Even when I tried to explain myself. They didn't understand the language I was speaking. They didn't understand it. But it wasn't for them to understand. They were simply a mirror for me to understand where in myself is the feminine still self-sacrificing. Where in myself is the feminine still wanting to be seen and willing to self-sacrifice to be seen? And that self-sacrificing sometimes just looks like over-explaining and trying to get people to understand that may not ever understand. And they're not going to understand through your explaining. The only way they're going to understand is through you stepping into your power and walking away. To knowing your worth and treating yourself as such. And stepping into the rooms where you are, where others are in devotion to you, where others do receive your pouring and respect and honor your pouring and pour back into you through their devotion. And another part that was reflected at me was the divine masculine within me. And the wound of the masculine is still in fear of the power of the divine feminine. Is in fear that if the feminine knows her power, will she leave me? If the feminine knows her power, will I have to live in her shadow? There's a fear of the feminine, the power of her, and it's why she has been suppressed. It's why she has been hidden and wiped out of every storybook. Because this fear of the fear of her power. If she knows her power, we can't control her. If she knows her power, she won't need us. But that's not the truth. There cannot be one without the other. One cannot be in their power without the other. And we are coming to this balance within our own beings, but the outside world is a reflection. And then when we come to this balance of the feminine and the masculine within ourselves, that will be reflected in our external reality with our friendships and our relationships. You will not attract a man in his power if you are not the woman in your power. If you are a woman still in your masculine, still filling that role of your masculine, you will attract a man that is in his feminine, that is in the wounded feminine, that is not a man, that is still a boy. Same if you're the man. If you are attracting women that are filling the masculine role and hyper independent and won't let you do anything for them, where are you still in your wounded feminine? Where are you not stepping up and being the provider? And this does not mean like the provider as in holding the sacred space for her, honoring her, loving her, respecting her, nourishing her, holding the safe container for her to be what she needs to be. If you are not in that role, naturally she is going to fall into the masculine role. Everything is a reflection. So we see the parts of ourselves that are still not in balance by our external reality. So it's all a blessing. There's no victimizing ourselves because we are the only one. Everyone outside of you is just a reflection of you, which is the one. And sometimes you have to walk away from the other aspects of you that are not in honoring to you because that is an old reality, an old version of yourself that you have to let die. You no longer exist in the realities where you are still being abused, where you're still being used, where you are not being devoted to. How I worked with this wound that was in me, within the divine feminine side of me and the masculine side of myself, because when the masculine outside of myself is hurting the feminine within myself, I know the masculine within myself is hurting the feminine within myself. And in that, I reflected and said, okay, where am I pouring? That reflection showed me I am still pouring into people and places and things that are not pouring back into me. And by pouring back into me, it's just receiving. If you're receiving me from that place and you're in devotion to me, when I am pouring into you and you are seeing me and receiving me when I'm pouring into you, I naturally receive. The receiving is the pouring into me. And when I'm not being received, you are no longer pouring into me. When I'm not being seen in the truth of who I am no longer being poured into through my pouring because you're not receiving me. And I need to be received to be poured into. That is the Divine Mother. She is the very essence of pouring. She is the very essence of giving, of giving, of giving. And through her giving, she receives. Through her giving, she receives. So I got to look at myself and ask myself, okay, in what ways am I still pouring into the masculine? In what ways am I still pouring into a wound? Which is trying to give in the order to receive. Place of, if I give you this, will you love me? If I pour into you, will you accept me? And that's a wound. That's a wound that comes from childhood that has probably traveled through family lines. the wound of self-sacrificing, of being who I thought my parents wanted me to be, the projections of who they wanted me to be, to accept love, the conditional love I received of, if you behave this way, I'll give you love, but if you behave that way, I'm going to punish you and I don't love you. The feeling of a child feels it all. They are connected to their bodies. They feel it all. They feel when you are not loving them. They feel your projections of who you want them to be, of the perfect little child that you want them to be, of the idea of who you think they should be. They feel it all. And they feel that projection, and and all they want and all they need to survive is your love. That's all they need. They are connected to the divine. All they're begging from you is your love and acceptance. And when you are not loving them and you are not accepting them and you are not receiving them and you are not seeing them and you're wanting them to be something they are not, and you are trying to change them, they are not receiving your love, because that is conditions. And then they try to, because all they want is your love, they learn to self-abandon the truth of who they are and self-sacrifice in order to get your love. And this is the story that was still playing out in me. And this is the story, which is a chain, which is bondage, that I broke through not self-sacrificing, through seeing the places within myself that were reflected in my external reality, where I was still self-abandoning and self-sacrificing, that if I would have continued pouring into the other that was not honoring what I was pouring, and not receiving what I was pouring, and not respecting what I was pouring the moment they decided to pour into something that was not in devotion, if I would have chosen to keep pouring, knowing that and feeling the pain of that in my body, that was me still feeding that story, still feeding that wound of self-sacrifice and self-abandonment. So this is just a story to help you reflect, to help you tap in and turn that on within yourself. Tap into the Divine Mother within yourself. And to ask yourself, where are you still sacrificing? Where are you still self-abandoning? Where are the wounds within yourself, in the masculine and the feminine within yourself? And how can you resolve them? How can you heal them? What is the story those wounds are telling you? And to see everyone in your life as that divine reflection of yourself. If you want that healthy relationship, whether you're a man or a woman, look at the reflections of yourself in the other. What type of relationships have you attracted? What have they made you feel? What were the similarities? What can you learn? What wisdom can you pull from all of your friendships, from your parents, from your connection through your siblings, through your connection with your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your romantic relationships, your friendships? They all have wisdom for you, because they're all reflections of you for you. So what can you learn about yourself through those connections? The most I've learned about myself was through relationships with others, mostly romantic relationships through my entire life. But now, as I've stepped away and I've been celibate for 2 years, honoring the divine feminine in me and waiting for what I know I deserve, waiting for that partner that is in true devotion to the Divine Mother, and not willing to settle for anything else. Since then, all my learning has been through friendships, through my family. Because I'm no longer willing to learn through self-abandonment, through self-sacrificing, because I know that if I will not self-abandon to be in a romantic partnership ever again. If it is not the full thing, if it is not the full real deal, a man in his power, devoted to the divine feminine within himself, that looks at his shit and takes care of his shit and looks at his wounds and takes accountability for himself and for everything within himself. If he's not fully showing up for himself, then he cannot even begin to fully show up for me. So my learning has become more from friends, but before it was all romantic relationships, and I learned so much about myself because they reflected all the wounds within myself, and it was all perfect. It was all perfect until my being was like, okay, you are done learning that way. Now let's focus on another area. Let's focus on another way that is going to show you yourself. And your body always knows. It's literally just about trusting. Trusting where your body is leading you, because your body knows, your soul knows, the divine mother within you knows what you need to experience to unravel the stories that are still keeping you in separation, that are still keeping you disempowered and in your wounds. For you to step out of the victim and into your power. Your body is always speaking to you. Will you listen? Will you listen? Will you listen? Will you listen? Connect to your body. Feel your body. Every truth, everything that you need to know is within you. Everything that you need to know is within you. The only truth, the only absolute truth is inside you. It's all inside you. And all around you. 'Cause outside is inside. Everything outside of you is inside of you. I feel like that is complete for today before this message gets really long. I hope this helps. May you continue to rise and see yourself in your power, and release the wounds and the stories that keep you caught in timelines of separation, of suffering. That you may rise into oneness, that you may rise into the truth of who you are. May you have the courage to follow your heart, to feel what is inside of your body. May you remember the truth of who you are. Embody it and rise into it, and not fear your own power. Much love.